Are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay. Welcome to episode 47 of Fair the Burn with my buddy Tanner Ketterman.
Hello?
Let me kick it back. 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 Hey boy, right there, what you gonna do if they gonna do you like that? I'm a wild boy and I need to be arrested. Don't catch cases, I just catch blessings. We can dance around.
Happy to be here.
TK, you are one of my... Was that someone's phone?
It was an alert.
You said that you canceled your phone.
I know, I did, and it was just telling me that my music, my main source of life, is missing, and I'm like, oh no, it's okay.
Yeah,
it's in my car, and but my Apple Watch just likes to tell me.
Yeah, let's start with that, Tanner. You have an iPod?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Why do you still have an iPod, Tanner? It is 23.
I know.
What kind of iPod do you have?
It's the newest.
It's the newest.
Well, it's like the latest generation of iPod. I don't know. I like having separate pieces of technology for certain things, right? So I think that's the beauty of technology is if you want multiple things. There's a lot of people who like everything in all in one go, right? Mm-hmm. And that's cool. But for me, I kind of like having things that are specialized. For example, like I just love Apple's organization, and then I have control of that organization. So if I want to change, for example, one of my favorite things is to do as a hobby is design album covers, like my own version of like, oh, I think that's a cool album cover, but I think I want to do my own spin. Okay. So I would Photoshop and design my own twist, and then I'm allowed with my Apple subscription, I can change it to however I want it.
On the Apple device?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
So that's a big plus.
How long have you been doing that with the covers?
I think I started immediately once I had a free version, quote unquote, of Photoshop because
Oh no.
Oh
no.
As I recall,
oh no.
I believe there was shame about a phone notification. But mine was not a phone notification. Mine was a Apple Watch.
But you did specifically say you were going to turn off yours, and I never said I was going to turn off mine.
That is also true.
Yeah, so we're playing semantics here.
And to be honest, if we're going to talk about like old generation, I don't even know how to like silence my Apple Watch. Like this thing is a mystery. Like sometimes it records like an hour of my dialogue, and it's just half of it's me singing or half of it's just me talking about like the next Star Wars idea I have.
Just to yourself. Just to yourself.
Yeah, so it's like, oh.
That makes me happy, but sad at the same time.
It also makes me sad.
It makes me sad at the same time, Tanner, because there's a segment that we do in the podcast called Tournament of Fools, where I like essentially like pit 8 people from like a specific thing together, and I'm gonna do one with you at one point.
Cool.
And I'm going to mix, like, Shakespeare characters and Star Wars characters.
Awesome.
But I didn't prepare it today.
Is it, like, real people, too, involved? Or is it just...
Yeah, I've done 3 of them now so far. One with Justin Lewis, one with David, fuck you, David, and one with... That's Dave's name on the podcast. Oh. And... love you, David. But also, fuck you, David. And one with Adam Griebus.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
See, I would be like on the top though. I would be no shame. I am a fool, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. That would be the asterisk, and then under the list, and be like, yeah, he has so
Asperger's.
Much, yeah, like no.
Yeah, asterisk. Yeah, he has autism.
No, that's horrible. No, it'd be just like help. He needs help.
Tanner, I think we're saying the same things here.
Okay. It's all good. So back on topic.
Yeah, that's cool, though. I didn't know that. I used to design album covers as well when I was a child, but I did, like, on actual CDs off of LimeWire. So, cool. Like, there was one summer that me and my juvenile delinquent cousin, who's in prison now, but when he was 13... Edgy. Yeah, super edgy. He was trafficking heroin.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's incredibly edgy.
Netflix edgy.
Ozark.
Yes.
So one summer he introduced me to rap music, and up until I was 6 or 7 this summer that we flew to California, I had no idea there was any music outside of country music. Because that's all my mom listened to.
Right, that was it.
That was it.
Like, that was the plane of
That
your
was
existence.
music. Yeah, that was that. Like, there's nobody.
There's nothing else
outside of Reba McEntire.
Yeah, and Jesus.
So we went down to California, and he introduced me to illegally downloading music on LimeWire and creating music covers. So I would do like 4 music covers on one CD, like each in a corner.
Oh, I love
like
that.
the albums that are on that CD.
Oh yeah, that's a classic way, and it's simple.
Yeah,
but it still can look uniformed. Like the Oh Hellos, it's one of my newest kind of indie bands that I've been getting into. They're a lot of folk country, but they have a 4 collection called the four winds, and they base it on the 4 gods of the winds. On the top of my head, I can't pronounce them or say them, but what I did was I kind of like listening to all of it in one go, which is the bonus of Apple and combining albums. You could just combine albums. I just combined all 4 albums, and then I titled it, quote unquote, what they titled their collection, the 4 Winds.
Right.
And then I did exactly what you did. Because it's simple. Because I liked how the albums look. I didn't want to change those. I thought they were cool and true to their forms, and there were certain colors. It was a red, blue, and like a purple and green. And so I was like, oh, that's interesting. And I just I just ordered them in how they sing them. Yeah, and that's cool. And I think the freedom of doing that is a form. I think it is a form of art, of your own expression, right? Because you have the rights to do it. Now, it's different if you were selling it and being like, oh, look, I made all this and this is cool. That's a different story. But the fact that you have that freedom, you have that right to change it up and retitle it or rename it, I think that's a really cool thing. Mm-hmm. And that is worth my time. It's those things, those little things.
Yeah. I think that'd be cool to do with like Adele's albums, I think. Because Adele has like the 19 and then the 21 and 23.
And then working on those just designing with the numbers. I think it's a cool idea. I mean, I think a lot of people don't give that album, designers, I don't even know what the term would be. Because, it's such something that no one talks about, right? Or even posters. Think about like movie posters.
Yeah.
Like really famous movie posters, right? I mean, the genius of setting up, if you look at like even today's Marvel, they're copy and paste the same. And that's good and bad because it's all about the appeal and showing, the leads and all that. Well,
and in a couple years, standard, it's just going to be all AI.
Oh,
it's just going to be AI generated.
Have you seen that new stuff recently?
ChatGPT and stuff.
Oh, that was, oh my god!
It's mind-boggling.
Well, there was one that I just saw on TikTok of he was convincing the AI that 2 + 2 = 5, and he convinced the AI. It got to a point where I know, and then it got to like a Star Wars, like, yes, my apprentice. Like he literally typed it in. Yes, you've learned the truth. 2 + 2 = 5.
There becomes a robot cult where all these robots
and he's like, thank you. I'm happy that you like my service. Please give a good rating. He's like, indeed. Oh, indeed.
5 stars.
Yeah, 5 stars. and that is scary. And at the same time, it kind of gives me like a whew, that we're not at that point where an AI can help. And I think that's the best thing. Talking about AI can help and improve humanity and improve lives in many different aspects. But it's the difference when we have a AI that is thinking for itself and is sentient, that it knows what it is, understands that what humans are, and that's going to be the scary factor.
The moment that happens, though, it's too late.
Oh, absolutely. It changes everything.
Well, I'm gonna give credit to David for this, and I know David's gonna watch. David's very excited for this episode.
Yeah.
I told him, I was like, I'm having you on, and he's
Oh,
stoked
really?
to go to lunch too. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, no. I'm too.
But Dave was bringing up that, the moment that an AI like realizes kind of what's going on and like it's conscious and like what it is and what you are, everyone in the movies thinks it's going to be like, hello, like it's going to give it away. The rate that AI is going to process and learn everything that's ever been created is far beyond that. So number one, they're probably not going to tell you. Or number two, if you think you're going to be able to turn it off, fuck you. It's already figured it out how to reroute all that shit.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like, it's just super scary to me fucking around with ChatGPT and AI and like, because I think that just like, even like all the VR stuff really scares me. And it especially scares me with the ChatGPT stuff with art.
Yes.
Can you talk about that a little bit? Like the fears that people might have?
It's a danger of the way I view it, right? Of you are using technology in simpler ways instead of I'm spending months, years, a lifetime to know how to paint, right?
Right.
Like we can talk forever about all these artists, new and old, about their style and how they're learning all that, right? And then we got this AI that just knows.
Yeah.
It's already there, right? And then you got a person using that and that input, right?
Why does the AI know? Like, where does the AI get the information?
Right. It's from again, don't quote me on this, but like from what I've read, that it's a basic ones and zeros of knowing, okay, if the AI, if I'm told I need to do this with this image and use it with this type of texturing, this type, and it is actually, it's just Photoshop, just manual, like, how would I, it's the best way of, it's like automatic, right? Like automatic driving. Like that's, if we have to compare it, instead of you driving and consciously thinking of, okay, I need to turn right here and I need to turn left here and I need to watch out for the pedestrian.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's the exact same thing. The difference is it's quick to the point, and we don't know what the reaction will be if something happens, like a bump in a road, right? For example, a really good bump in the road is what if a guy just randomly grabs someone else's art, puts it into the AI art, and rearranges it a little bit, and
then calls it their own.
Yeah, the AI's not gonna know. It doesn't care. It's following what it's told, right? And that's the difference, right? Like let's say this AI had a little more intelligence and be like, hey, I actually can tell this is already a work of art. Like what if it like told you, hey, it's already good. Like it doesn't. What if it doesn't change anything, right? And then they just put it out. Mm-hmm. Is that still art? It's actually kind of like the big paradox talk about the Theseus ship. Have you ever heard of that? Mm-mm. That talk of if it was talked in WandaVision in the Marvel, which was a really interesting like episode where it's the concept of the ship of Theseus, right? So if it's all torn down and you have just a basic piece of wood of the ship of Theseus and then you build it all back up, is that still the ship? Is that still ship? Or is that the idea? Is that still the same ship of Theseus, right? Is it still, or if I just have nothing, like a blank memorial, right? And it's a stone and it says, here lies the ship of Theseus. Is that the ship of Theseus? Is that the original? Is that the real one?
Right.
And it's that kind of talk of when we talk about originality and we talk about art, humans evolve everything. We are on top. We're stepping upon giant, the giant's shoulders. We grow from each other, right? And then we create new art. So the problem is with AI art down to it's too new to know right now. It's too. I think there's a good line that we've already started, and you can even see it on Reddit and others of. If plagiarism is plagiarism, there's no way around it, right?
Right.
You can't do it. I mean, there's no way around it.
But isn't most of that stuff plagiarism? Because that's my fear.
Right.
We can call it ones and zeros in binary code all day long, but why does it know what texture is? I feel like it's because it's taken years upon years of people who have actually painted and who have created texture to make it look like certain landscapes. Right. So I still feel like all of it, like, because I've had these conversations with like the other co-host who I started this podcast with originally, Cougar, because Cougar's really deep into ChatGPT stuff. Radley, who's also been on the podcast a lot, actually has like a company built around ChatGPT that he's selling to other companies. Dude, it's stuff I don't even understand. TK.
Yeah, and it's super complex. Like, it's beyond my realm.
But Coog's been making like all sorts of images and stuff for like his businesses that he has going on ChatGPT, and he says, "Would you say that I made this image?" And I'd say, "Well, I wouldn't." Because all you did was implement an idea into something that did 99% of the work. Right. So the question comes down to, and it's the fundamental questions of what is art, right? That we're asking, and who is creating the art.
And I would add one more thing. Who cares? You have to ask. Well, it's the same thing. Like, it was a really cool. I made you watch it. Randy Feltface talks about it, and Randy writes a novel. He talks about oh my God, To Kill a Mockingbird. Like, she had Ghost at a Watchman, a whole manuscript in her safe. No one knew about it, right? No one cared until the lawyer was able to grab it and then sold it and made big bucks on it. And it was never meant to be shown on the light of day.
And that's the second book, To Kill a Mockingbird?
Well, it wasn't
where the guy's racist?
Well, actually, the history goes by it that it was her original draft for To Kill a Mockingbird. It wasn't meant to be a sequel. I mean, I could talk a whole rant about J.R.R. Tolkien and all these new books that Christopher Tolkien released to kind of add on and create more, foundation with his original, if I have to compare it, the Bible of Middle Earth, these great tales. And there was just this new book that, came out, The Fall of Numenor, and it's not technically by Christopher Tolkien because he passed away a couple years ago. So it's other writers just putting things together from other collections
that he's written.
That Tolkien has written, Christopher Tolkien has edited, not completely written, but has edited and filled in what is needed and trying to keep original, but just slams it all in one sandwich and says, here's a book.
Yeah.
Here's a book we can sell.
It's not.
And it's hard. It's hard. And I read it and I enjoyed it, but was it a through story? Was it something new? Was it something fresh? No, I read every chapter I've already read somewhere else in a different book in a different part, right? So is that art? Is that what people are going to go by and be like, wow, that's incredible? And that's the same thing with, you have to put in the consideration of how do people view it as art? Like, it's like these new modernism artists, like I think the really cool one was I can't remember on the top of my head, the one who had the girl with the balloon, and it was in a weird frame, and everyone's like, oh, that's weird. And like, as it was unveiled, it was a shredder, and it shredded it.
Oh,
do you remember that?
No, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh my God, we'll have to look at it.
Are you talking about like the guy who did like all of the? I can't even think what his name is. I want to say his name's like Blip or something, but it's not Blip. Who cares?
I would have to look it up.
Yeah.
But it's that concept of he literally humiliated all these people, like these famous like critics, and everyone was like, wow, this is incredible, revolutionary. And you just hear bzzz, and it shreds it. And that's how it is. And it hangs underneath the portrait. I mean, incredible, right?
Well, yeah.
Is that art though?
Mm-hmm.
Like, do I care? Do other people care? I think.
Do you think the question is who cares or does it matter?
Well,
Is it? You think that's the same question?
I think it is the same question of, well, do you care when you're talking about with your friend how much you care about his image and what he did, that you were like, hey, I don't agree that you did anything. You just let something else do it, right? But it's still an act. And that's the whole difference, is it's action. It's still action. He took an action, well, regardless if it was big or small. It's an action, and then it leads on to the moral of mediocrity, right? I watched people, sing perfectly, beautifully, incredibly, but it's an operetta, and there was no interaction, there was no facials. It was singing, which is great. But how, on the scale of art, is there a bar? Is there like a level, right? Is there like a meet of
like how much of it are you meeting,
right,
to consider it the thing?
And then the concept of perfection, right? Like always being perfect. I think every teacher, every student talked about, how perfect I can get doing this one scene. Oh, how perfect I can do getting this one show. We're always trying to strive to perfection.
Yeah.
Right? Does the audience care?
No, not a lick.
Does the audience know if you ad-libbed and messed up an entire scene? And it all depends on how good that actor is and how good the other actors are interacting. And then you just created something new on that stage.
Yeah, completely.
And then you go back behind stage and your director's looking at you, looking like, why the hell did I ever put you there? Who are you? Who the hell are you? Whereas the audience is losing their minds.
Right.
They're like, wow, that was incredible.
Yeah.
I have never seen. And what if there was a critic who was like, this is revolutionary.
Yeah.
This changed my life forever.
Talk about the Green Show. Talk about the Green Show and Much Ado, dude. That's what I know what you're getting at, TK.
It's no joke.
Yeah.
So when we talk about art, it always has to be about the actions of people and then the people reacting.
Yeah.
It always will be.
And I want to go
from the dawn of time.
And I actually want to go in on the Green Show real quick, because I just saw Norm.
Really?
Yeah. I went to Sundrillin. They just did the show at ISU.
Yeah.
And I walked in with Dave, and first person I saw sitting right there, dude, good old Norm. Walked over. I was like, "What's up, Norm?" I was talking to him. He's like, "Oh, Chandler, good to see you. Yeah, you're back in school." I was like, "Yeah." And he looks over at Dave's and he goes, "We've met before."
Oh no.
Yeah, dude. And he was like, and Dave was like, "Yeah, David." And Norm was like, "Yeah. Yeah, we have met before." And I was like, Norm, Dave was John Proctor, dude.
Yeah. I mean, Norm. Well,
but here's the thing.
How old is
well,
he?
no. Dave cut all his hair.
Oh, is he totally just...
Yeah, Dave cut all his hair. He's like clean shaven. Like Dave kind of looks different. But the moment that you think that he'd tell Norm, "Yeah, it's me, David," like he'd be like, and I had to go, "David, he's John Proctor." And he's like, "Oh, yeah, David." He was like,
exactly.
And so even Norm was like, "Man, that's embarrassing." But I got Norm to talk about the Green Show. And he was like, "Yeah, the Green Show that you guys did, it was interesting. It was interesting, but it warmed the crowd up, and that's what we needed." And at a certain level, that is true.
It is true,
because we got hate for that Green Show, because I was essentially just kind of running around being a fool and making people look for me, and Tanner was just like my boss, who was also a very... How would you describe Dogberry in Much Ado? Your version of Dogberry?
Dogberry will always be the concept of accepting things he can't control. Because it's all about, he knows control will never be a thing, and it's okay. So we might as well, and it's that sad ignorance of, I have control, and he doesn't, and he'll never get to that dawning of, oh no, I don't. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know. Because he thinks he's good at his job. He loves what he's doing.
Do you think he thinks he's in complete control? Is that what you're saying? Like this?
Well,
dude?
he knows that he realizes like, oh man, that doesn't go the way I want, but I still have control. I can bring this back. Like it's always that I can come back. He never gets to the point where he's like, oh, I can't come back. Because he succeeds. He succeeds. That's the beauty of Shakespeare. He makes even the lowliest characters succeed in a little measure, right?
Yeah.
And that's the difference with comedy and tragedy of Shakespeare, is that in tragedy, in Shakespeare, the littlest characters, the littlest roles, they have it out. They're like, whew, we're good, we're out. Like, for example, like Romeo and Juliet, freaking the prince, he just has to walk in. He walks in, deals with people. Okay, people, calm down. Leaves. Act 2 comes in. Oh my god, everyone's like dying and stuff. We need to like come back and like get together. And that's it.
Yeah.
And that's his. He doesn't die. He doesn't get hurt. He's not. Is like, I would love to see an influence of like, what if this all this harm and stuff caused problems for him financially? Like, what? It's a cool Romeo and Juliet. Another idea I thought was like a kind of like an Office gone wrong. Because it's cool to play off as really lighthearted and felt with Romeo and Juliet until it's not, right? Until one person is really offended with something, and it's just boom.
And the politics are on.
Boom. And then we're stuck, watching a love story because that's the focus. But at the end of the day, this is why this love story can't happen. Why no one can succeed.
Because they're in the office. Well, and how would you like divide the two houses divided at the beginning of the show, though?
Oh, I mean, what you could do is, it happens all the time where big,
like they merge? Like they're merged companies?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Because that happens all the time.
Yeah, totally.
And it's a thing people don't realize. It causes layoffs. It causes so many like HR problems. I mean, I've watched frickin' in my small experience in business, a weird gas fast stop, a main owner bought up all the common sense in the area of Idaho and some parts of, Utah, and they don't even know what they're ordering with ice cream. Like they don't even know.
Yeah.
And they have people who are automatically ordering them fishing gear, and they're supposed to order fishing gear from another company.
Fishing gear for what?
Just fishing gear, just like basic hooks and all that stuff to sell.
Oh.
But they're getting it from a different company that now the new owner's like, no, you don't order from them anymore. You need to order from this guy because I made a deal with this guy. And they still order with the other company because they're not being there's no communication. They're not being told. And the chaos and the stress from the highest manager to the lowliest grunt. And that's the beauty of Shakespeare, is right there. Is the dynamics of rank, the dynamics of people, the dynamics of circumstances. And that is the best way to reflect life, because that has never changed. It's sad, it hurts, but it's the one fact that you have to understand. Like, I mean, I've been listening to Rufus Wainwright again. Okay. There's sometimes I don't know if you ever
Who's that?
It's a song. It's a very influential songwriter.
Okay.
Incredible. And he talks. He tells stories with his music, right? And he has this amazing song called Little Sister. And he talks about literally, hey, I'm succeeding because I'm a guy. And you need to realize that. And I'm sorry, little sister. And he's playing, and the theme is very similar to like Mozart, and showing the concept of contemporary, of like what lasts forever. And he's He's like the first line is, "Little sister, come and sit beside me, and we'll play this old piano for a while, just for a while, just for a while." And then like he just talks about like, I'm succeeding and I'm gonna be a total asshole and a bastard, but you got to remember, I'm a guy. I can get away with it. You can't.
Mm-hmm.
And that's insane, and it hurts. I like the concept of talking about gender inequality. That hurts even me, of a guy who is not a girl. I can still feel and be like, that's horrible. I agree. You shouldn't be treated less because you're a different sex.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Or treated however you portray yourself or view yourself, right? Oh, you're that kind of person? Yeah, a lot of things are just going to stop.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what happened. And that, you can't change that. We are afraid of that, of change. And I know I'm going on a rant, but that's what it kind of all revolves around. Art revolves around of what can change and what can we like, oh, I never thought of it like that.
Yeah.
Like, oh, wow. And that, changes, your perception, right? And it's the same thing about, like, I agree with what you're talking about with, like, AIR, right? Yeah. I mean, it's kind of cheating. But at the same time, what if it creates something, like, amazing and incredible? Like, something beautiful, and it changes people's perspectives forever.
Yeah, totally. And
Right?
it's too young to know, and that's what you said.
And that's what it always is. It's always going to be like that. Like, I always think of, like, Rite of Spring. Oh, my God. Like, what a scary ballet. But nowadays, everyone loves it. And it was, like, amazing. But back then, people were rioting and murdering performers for it.
Yeah. Be honest, DK, that's a lot to unpack.
And that's what happens when you involve the T of the K.
So here's the things that I kind of think about that big rant, and then we'll kind of move into the next topic. Yes, I do agree that AIR, and thank you for agreeing with me, but I also see the initiative of, like, he has to start the art in order for it to even happen. And that's something that he argues too, is the idea is so important and the concept of art, which I do agree with, but how much of that does it require? Because it does lead to mediocrity. Because if he tried to actually make those images himself, another fucking...
Mm-hmm.
He wouldn't have been able to actually make those pictures, right? Like, if he tried to do them.
Absolutely.
So yeah, so that is what I think about that. 2, yeah, Shakespeare's the greatest of all time, right? I forget who was talking to me the other day, and they were like, yeah, like, Shakespeare, like, he's just not that great. Like, it's just like, he's just not, it's just like, why do we, like, glorify this guy so much? And it's just like, just because you're a white man. And I was like, I feel like that is such a simplistic way to look at one of the most prolific writers of all time. Because, like, Shakespeare for the West was everything. He was the most revolutionary playwright of all time.
Everything.
And then,
changed
and then for the East, you have more Chekhov, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like, that's why for me, those are the two greats. It's just because, like, I'm sorry, those are just the guys who, like, shaped how theater was done. So,
but hey, they had to learn and get from somewhere too, right? We can't.
Yeah, totally.
We can't shake, and that's my point of leading into what. Sorry, not to interrupt.
No, you're
but
good.
What you were talking about, mediocrity, right? Shakespeare took these ideas from other old plays, but he didn't just be like copy and paste like Romans did with their Greek theater. They totally just copy and paste, and then they just made sequels upon sequels upon sequels, like literally today. They literally just made comedies galore. Ironic that's what's happening now. Mediocrity to the max. But that's what I would agree on, is that's why Shakespeare is something else, because it builds and it grows and it doesn't stop growing. That's the beauty, the most beautiful thing about it, is it never stops growing. And that's the hardest thing for an artist. If your stuff lasts, like, right? That hurts. Mm-hmm. And if you're dead, you don't know. Well, that's a another moral.
Well, they say you die twice, man.
Yeah,
they say you die twice.
Yeah, that is true.
Right?
Well, they even say that with athletes. When someone told me about that, like athletes die twice.
Yeah.
Like a die second death. That scared.
You die once when they bury you, and second when the last person ever says your name.
Yeah, I mean.
But people like Shakespeare, Muhammad Ali, Jesus, Gandhi, like these people like will never die. Like that's kind of the thing. Until I think the last human actually breathes, like there are these iconic people throughout history that like Genghis Khan, right? Like as terrible as some of these people are, it's just like they're never gonna die, you know? So I agree with that. I have a thing, but I will talk to you about it after the podcast. Let's talk about a little bit of politics here, TK. Do you want to give a disclaimer before we jump into
Yes. Be prepared. It is going to be so controversial that your views and your values will be put to the test, because at the end of the day, what I say here means everything.
Yep.
And everything I am and everything I say and everything I think of
is written law.
Is written law, and only that is true. And if you're going to get mad already, cool. I'm ready.
With guns.
So many guns.
Yep.
The only problem is I don't know how to point. It always scared me.
You don't know how to point?
Like, I don't know. Like, I was like, because like the concept of like gangster mode, you know, guys doing like that.
What the fuck?
Yeah, exactly. Like side, like having a handgun on the side.
You don't have to shoot like that.
Exactly.
You don't have to shoot
Exactly.
like that.
Exactly. That is my point. That is exactly what I'll jump into politics of. When you don't know about something and you just talk about something.
You're going gangster mode.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
When you talk about something and you say you know something and you know it and anything that anyone else says is invalid.
Yeah.
Because you know it, right? I think a really cool experience I've had, and I know I'm deterging from politics, but the best way I can explain it is when you have like different views about a different show or a different movie, and you're arguing and fighting about it and getting so mad about it, rather than just listening to that person, trying to see their perspective and their perception. That's where it gets hard when you're just, I'm taking this personally. I'm taking this as an affront.
You got to leave your feelings out of it, man.
Oh,
listen.
Well, yes, but come on, don't tell me a lie.
Facts, yeah.
Tell me a
but
fact.
that's the thing.
Don't tell me an opinion.
Your feelings are gonna listen to the lies and believe them as facts and not do your research. Right. That's what I'm saying. You got to leave your feelings out of shit, and you have to just look at how things run.
Right.
Like as much as, and this is the thing, man, is I'm not gonna beat around the bush here. I used to be very, very liberal, like very Bernie bro liberal in college. And it wasn't until I moved to Seattle that I was like, man, maybe I don't actually believe all the things that I believed when put into practice. Now, does that make me... Yeah, oh yeah. Does that make me the most far-right person of all time ever? No. But it means that I'm very much in the middle about a lot of shit that we'll get into here in a second. Right. And I probably lean a little bit right.
And I say... That's okay, because you need to stick true to your morals, but not rely on them when you're wrong. Because I can admit when I'm wrong, and that's okay. It's okay.
Yeah,
just so you know, guys, it's okay to be wrong. That is totally fine. Politics. Anything, regardless.
But it's not okay to disagree with you. Because you are the super overlord.
Right.
And you will murder them.
I already stated that.
Right. Yeah. Sorry. I shouldn't restate
so like anything you said, like I just threw out. And
right.
Like, I don't care.
Yeah. I'm still gonna kill you.
Yeah,
so
I'm
still the overlord.
It's still Overlord.
Okay, TK. Here's the article.
Let's go. Yeah, go for
I
it.
read this article, and it's from Harvard. Okay, and it was
okay.
written at the end of last year. I don't know what the name of it is.
Okay.
But if you want to look up these stats,
Yeah.
feel free to look up these stats. It's on a Harvard, article. Here's what it says. I just think this is interesting, and I want to talk about these points.
Sure.
This poll that they took finds that nearly 40% of Republicans between the ages of 18 and 29. So we're talking about young voters. Okay.
Young voters.
This poll finds that nearly 40% of Republicans cited inflation as the most important issue driving the midterm vote. Okay. Now, first of all, what do you think about inflation?
I think it's...
Are you nervous about inflation? Is that a big thing that...
I think anything when you talk about money and you talk about life, that is the reality we have to face from, again, like we talked about with Shakespeare, from the lowest to the highest. It affects everyone, some more than others.
Yeah, especially near the low end, a lot more.
Well, always, but it's always been like that.
Yeah, facts.
The difference is where are we putting our time, and where are we putting and placing people who can help us recover that time and recover that energy, recover that money, recover that life, right? So we're putting in people that, some of them and some of those positions maybe should change. Maybe there should be a different shuffle of cards. And and I think that's the problem with when we talk about how the perception of certain things. It's never about what couple people think. It's about what these senators think. Oh, only these conglomerate senators. Mm-hmm. Oh, and then we have a conglomerate of other opposition senators.
But those senators don't even believe that. They're paid off by lobbyists to talk about bills and points. So
exactly.
It's like, it's all a facade.
And then it goes back around, right? It's not, and that's my problem, Chandler, with politics. It's all interconnected. You can't just make one slice of the pie and be like, if we fix this, the rest will be okay.
Yeah.
But we can't bake the whole pie.
True. And this is, Trump is a scary person. I'm going to say this right now. And I'm very nervous about Trump running in 2024. I'm very nervous about this. But when he says drain the swamp, and I know that he means things deeper than just politics and stuff like that. The reason that he's calling the political sphere the swamp is because it's so murky. Right, because it's all interconnected, like you said, and when you're kind of going through it, like you're drudging through like mud and this deep, like this deep, just slate and shit, dude. That it's hard to see and it's hard to navigate, right?
Absolutely.
Oh, and the thing that makes me nervous about inflation is war. I mean, we are with Biden right now, man, and I don't really care for either Biden or Trump. It doesn't really matter at this point. I think we're kind of fucked either way. I think America's kind of been doomed since day one, to be honest. But that's just me. That's on a whole different tangent. But Biden's not pulling out of this war, man. He's doubling down in this war, and you want to talk about increasing inflation? Let's talk about going to war with one of the countries that we get a lot of natural resources from. So I'm nervous about it. But I live in a small town in Idaho, man. Like as long as nobody moves here, I feel like we're cool for the most part,
The problem is when we talk about, even with names, with Trump or Biden, at the end of the day, we're talking about lesser evils of things we can accept and things we can survive and move on, even though we struggle, right? So it's all about perspective, though. If you're constantly being told, though, that life is never going to change, this is never going to change, and the only solution is to have this one person in place rather than this other person in place,
you're screwed. Yep.
Because if we're going to talk about who did this and who did that, we can talk about things of what past presidents have done that has influenced today's presidents. So if we keep saying one person is going to change all that,
Oh, they won't. No, they won't change your life.
the difference
That's
is
the
though,
thing, right?
yeah. But my point is their influence as the president of the United States. There is another level of the concept of your opinions actually end up mattering because you have a country following you to the T.
Yep.
And they are taking your actions, your choices, and even down to your, for Pete's sake, your bowel movements. The fact that we care if a president is doing well because of his age. And
do you not care about that?
I think, yeah, but the fact that we that's the defining factor. Oh my God, if he is incompetent and he's so old, that means we're in trouble and we're doomed.
No, it doesn't. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
So, right, which that's my point. Yeah, it should be considered. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're not feeling well and you cannot think rationally, yeah. But if you are spinning that point to make a reality of saying this is why America is failing because of this, cool. I mean,
yeah. No, yeah. I mean, you can't just say it's like just the president, right? Yeah, it's so much more.
I mean,
than that.
it's when, and it is all about what you're saying in your message, right? Yeah. And that is the thing I will always shut down. Of you cannot tell me, and this is my opinion. This is what I view. This is where I make the line. You cannot tell me that Trump caused more of a division. You can't tell me that. He made immediate choices and positions and places that instantly divided people. That it fueled the fire.
Oh, you can't say that he didn't.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he absolutely did. Yeah. Okay.
So, like,
I thought you were saying
no.
that he didn't. I was like, oh,
no,
damn,
no,
come on.
no,
Yeah.
That see, this is my problem with talking political.
You go gangster mode.
Well, yeah. I don't even know where to point. I don't even know where to talk. And that's my point is like I don't feel comfortable because there's lines you just don't cross. Am I saying Biden is the best? No human is. But when you got people who are saying Trump is Jesus on high,
yeah, that's pretty crazy. That's
scary.
Yeah,
it's more than crazy. It's scary.
I agree with that.
But
that's not every person that votes for Trump.
True.
That's also the thing too. Is like people also want to categorize every Trump voter as a QAnon crazy,
right?
Believing
Or
that he's in Jesus.
Also, are you just voting just because he's a Republican?
Well, and how people vote just because they're Democrats. I mean, you could use
exactly.
That's
my point.
Yeah.
That's my point.
Yeah.
When I vote, I'm not voting for a Democrat or Republican. I'm voting for I think who's the best for this office.
Yeah, I agree.
That's what I always go into, regardless of my beliefs or political beliefs. I'm not going to vote always. Oh, this guy's a Democrat. He's good. He's awesome.
I've only voted for one person ever. I've had the opportunity to vote in 2 elections now, and I only voted in one. I honestly didn't feel like either person in the 2020 election deserved my vote, so I didn't vote. And people can give me shit for that or whatever. Oh, you use your fucking. I am using my voice by saying I don't fucking think either of these people fucking.
Again, I don't care. That's the beauty of America is that you have your own choice. Mm-hmm. The difference is if your action is harming and affecting others, right?
True.
So that vote, you saying that doesn't hurt anyone.
Yeah.
But this is all theoretical what I'm saying, but what if, Chandler, you went on public space and you were shaming people for voting, right? And you were saying, oh, and like pointing at people, oh, look at you, who'd you vote for? And you're a horrible person, and oh, look at this guy. And then, everyone should look at me, and I didn't vote because of this, right? Wow. Did that help or did that harm?
Right.
right? Did you promote something, which is, again, free speech? You have that right. But is that helpful or dividing?
Yeah, I don't think that anyone should ever be ostracized for who they vote for or parties that they vote for and things like that. The issue is that I find, because it's, going back to the fact that I was a lifelong Democrat up until, a couple of years ago,
From
is
the experiences you've been through.
from the experiences I had, right? The experiences that I've just seen is that I feel a lot more ostracization. I don't know if that's even a word. Yeah. From like people who claim to be on the left side for voting and things like that, So that's just kind of like where I saw, and I was like, man, I don't even know if I want to be like associated with people like this too. Even if I, agreed with them or whatnot, I don't really want to be associated with anybody, which is why I even kind of feel gross being like, oh, I'm middle right leaning, blah, blah, blah. Like, because it's just fucking opinions, and it just doesn't matter like what side you fall on. And I agree, it doesn't matter like who the president is. It doesn't affect your life, but it does affect like bigger stuff, right? Because if we had a different president, maybe that president would be like, we shouldn't be involved in the Ukraine war, because that is scary, and then you could get drafted, all sorts of things like that. But nonetheless, we'll move on.
Right.
So inflation, that was a lot of talk about inflation.
And I'm not even talking about it. It's
talking around it.
See, the reason why I won't talk about it, and I'll be honest, is because I don't understand it.
I don't know much
understand
about inflation.
And I like that you talked about the article and going back on that. It's interesting on that level. But my argument would be on that article of how fast does that change? Is that
right
accumulative over this period of time? Is that,
I mean, this is the end of 2022, right?
So
it's a few months.
So a few months, but realize that has, in a few months, things have drastically switched around.
Okay. Well, listen to the rest of the points. Okay. Let's listen to the rest of the points.
Let's go for that.
Democrats between the ages of 18 and 29 are moved by 20% abortion, 20% protecting democracy, 19% inflation, and 16% climate change. Let's break those down one by one. TK, this is the question I wanted to ask you.
Okay.
What do you think about abortion?
It's choice. It's always been choice.
Do you think that that the government should interfere at all?
Well,
so obviously, real quick, I'm just going to, just kind of put an overview on this. Yeah. Roe v. Wade in the 70s, I believe it was the 70s, was a Supreme Court case that got turned in America that not universal healthcare, but abortion was a fundamental healthcare right that women had, right? So that the government couldn't interfere with that. And up until 2022, the beginning of it is when it got overturned, or 2021, at the end of 2021, I can't remember. I want to say it was the beginning of 2022.
More 2022.
Yeah, that they overturned. So now it's the states' rights. So now it is less that you can't get an abortion anywhere, but it's specific states have different laws regarding and around abortion.
Right.
So what do you think about all that?
Well, let's start immediately into, again, opinions and facts. When I'm going to a doctor, who this is his occupation, his or her. They know what they're talking about. They know what they're doing. That is what we're assuming. That is what we're going with. Mm-hmm. And that the doctor will recommend, of how long an abortion is, how long it is. And the concept of that's what I always get down to, the nitpick of the idea of is this child alive now? Mm. Is it actually alive? Right. And that's my line, right? I don't think it should be a yes or no. That's my problem. I think it should be a maybe. I think it should be discussed. I think it should be talked about immediately and be like, hey, I have all these. I need options. I need actual conversations with people who know what they're talking about and they know all that. Rather than, and I'm not being anti religious on that, or I'm not going to go to a religious pastor to talk about things about my body. Mm-hmm. I'm going to talk about my spiritual self, my mental self. But I'm not going to talk to him about
if you have cancer.
And so the mere fact of a pastor telling a woman, you are a horrible person if you do this.
Yeah.
Because I know. Because God tells me. Because God tells me.
Do you think there's any argument that abortion's wrong outside of being religious?
I think there actually is. If a person is constantly having sex, which is fine if that's what they want to do, but I think it's a problem if you're constantly then getting an abortion.
But that abortion's just wrong. Not even just a lot. Just that, like, it's wrong outside of a religious text or a religious sense.
Well, and again, it goes on that maybe, and I'd rather it be on a maybe than a yes or no.
Can I give you one?
Okay.
So I have a very unique opinion about abortion, and we'll get into it in a second. And this is I want to get your take on it.
Okay.
So I think that baby is never a part of the woman. Is never they are never the same body. Yes, they are connected, but they're different. Babies have completely different blood types often from their parents. So it's not the blood that's actually circulating in that. And just because something is housing you doesn't necessarily make it you, right? I live inside of this house. I am not this house. I live in Earth. I'm not a part of Earth necessarily. You know what I mean? I'm still like my own entity. Now, I think it would kind of be fucked up if all of a sudden this house was like, hey, Chan, bam, you don't live here anymore. So that's kind of my opinion. Here's kind of my view on abortion real quick, and I want to talk about yours, but this is kind of where I stand. Because of that, and I also am slightly religious. I've struggled with faith a lot, but
Who wouldn't?
right. Some people don't. Some people don't. Right. Some people are brainwashed.
Well, those people I question. I think anyone should be struggling.
They're probably they're pushing other things down. I think that because that I really don't think that the baby is a part of the mom. I just think the mom houses it. Scientifically and then spiritually, I just think that that's a person. I think abortion is wrong always. Now, legally, when we talk about America, I think it's a different conversation because I think that it comes down to when are you legally a person.
Yes.
This is crazy, but you are not legally a person until you are out of your mother and you have a signed birth certificate. So I believe that every state should pretty much allow all the way up until the baby's born to have like late-term abortions. As crazy as that sounds, and like internally, I'm like, I don't like that. I'm like, if we're just looking at how things should be, I think that's how it should be.
And see, Chandler, everything you just said, awesome. I can see that perspective. I like that perspective because it's what you formulated to yourself, and it's not your. The difference is if you were forcing it, you're telling me. Right. You're not forcing it upon. I'm not. No, that's what I'm not pale as a ghost, being like, "Oh man, how am I going to respond?" Oh no, he's
never
ask it down my throat.
I would never ask anyone to believe things that I believe, dude.
But this is not just I'm listening and absorbing. It is listening, absorbing, and reacting. I think there's a big difference when you have the house and there's someone in the house, but there's a freaking bulldozer outside and they're like, you know what? We're going to save that person in the house. We're going to take out the house because that house doesn't have any rights. And I'm going to smash that house to save the person
inside.
But once they're outside, they're on their own. We're not going to give them a house.
We're
not going to give them. We're not going to give them a chance to survive in the wild outside because that's the difference. Is other people taking other people's choices away from them?
Right. Yeah.
That's wrong. That's all it is. The mere fact, and I'm sorry, This is where I cross the line. The mere fact that you are criminalized in certain states, or from what I've read, don't quote me on this, from Texas, that if you cross a state with trying to go in and get an abortion, you can get fined and put in jail.
That's a law in Idaho too.
Yeah, it's becoming amplified.
Yeah, yeah.
And now they even had people didn't talk about. There were people who you get rewarded. It was a really interesting thing. Like I was listening to it when I was driving in Burley. You get a reward for turning in people for if they are involved with drugs and they are drug dealers and all this. You are.
They did that in Burley?
Well, just on the radio, just like an advertisement. I was just driving around, turned on the radio, and that's what I hear. And I'm like, oh my God, that's cool. Also crazy. I wonder if people actually like do this as an occupation. They probably do.
Oh yeah,
for sure. It's like a bounty hunter. But it's the same thing if that's what they advertised in Texas on abortion. You will get rewarded for doing that. Yeah, you know what? I'm sorry, but that's when the author of Handmaid's Tale was like, hey, my books are now becoming reality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, personally, I actually don't hate the fact that it's kind of up to the states. I don't. But I hate laws like that, where it's saying you can't even leave the state to do this.
Because that's my line, Chandler, is it doesn't stop. They always complain. You know, it's true. It's the exact same. And it's the stupidest thing. It's the exact same conversation when we talk about guns. They always go to, oh, if they do this, then they're going to do this, and then they're going to do this, and they're going to do this, and they're going to take away this, and this, and this, and this. They literally, no joke, that's what they're doing right now with abortion. And it's hypocritical, and it's sad that we have to... My views, this state has certain views, and they matter more in the general idea, right? Mm-hmm. And we have to implement it. And that is my struggle with religion, if I'm gonna jump from abortion to religion, because I think a lot of it is sadly intertwined.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do agree with that. I think a lot of it is. Yeah.
Because you have a very passionate and emotional view, which is admirable and cool for you. But you are telling another person that they have to follow that. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're religious.
Is that the American dream?
Absolutely not. Yeah.
Is that the concept? Like, I'm tired, and I hate it. I'm tired of, that's all I see on Reddit is these people who are like telling other people, oh, go back to your country. Oh, do this. Oh, do that. Oh, do this. Oh, do that. Whereas I'm just like, dude, I just want my coffee.
Yeah.
I just want to go home and play some video games and, like what I like, but... So but when I say that, it's the same thing. You just before we aired, we're making a joke about KKK.
Yeah,
Yeah. Like there's people who really believe that stuff. Right?
Yeah, it's scary. Yeah,
and that's I think that leads. That's my line. That's for me. And if I have to, sorry, Chandler.
What's your line? The KKK. Like,
all that stuff. It's on the fact of,
like actually believing it. Right.
I have zero tolerance.
So I think this leads into the next point, right? Of protecting democracy. Right. Are you worried about protecting democracy? Do you think democracy is under attack? Because they keep going, because the right does push, right? Yes. I think it's something the left does too, but you definitely see it on the right where they go, oh, we're taking away abortion, but also gay marriage. Like they're coming for your kids. And then this, and then there's going to be that thing. So are you worried about democracy, Tanner?
I'm always worried about it. But you have to understand, that's been America since day one.
Protecting democracy.
Chandler, it was always described as the American experiment. It was never described as the American truth. The founding fathers never said, this is it, guys. We did it. All white men, elderly men who own slaves, we did it. Oh, no one can... It's just like Randy Feldface. He's like, oh, did you read the first one? Yeah, nailed it. I nailed it.
We fucking did it.
Yeah, we did it. We're done. We don't have to do anything more. I can just have sex with all my slaves and we're good to go.
All right,
That's literally what happened. We talk about we idolize these people, and they also made mistakes.
Oh yeah, all of them.
We don't even know about Shakespeare. We only know a certain amount of facts. We don't know if he was a really bad guy. What if he killed people?
We also don't even know if he was actually Shakespeare.
Right.
He could have been somebody else.
You don't even know if Tanner Ketterman is a good person. He tries.
Yeah.
But maybe I don't know.
Maybe in his off time.
Maybe his off time he's just
Kicking puppies.
No. I couldn't kick a puppy. To be really controversial, it is aggressive with my cat, but I'm not gonna murder it. It's not like I planned anything yet.
Okay, DK.
Yeah.
the last point is climate change. Are you worried about climate change?
Oh. It's a thing.
This is interesting. How much of climate change do you think has been caused by people in the last couple years? How they're like, oh my God, we're all gonna die in 80 years, blah blah blah. How much of that do you think is caused by humans?
Well, it's see. Here's the thing. It's all documented. Scientists were making warning signs in the 60s during the Nixon era. This is not new. That's the thing people aren't realizing. It's just different wording. It wasn't called climate change. Originally, people called it global warming.
That's right.
Do you remember? I will always remember. See, there's certain things in politics I always remember. I remember one of the senators who freaking went outside, grabbed snow, and threw it.
He's like, look, global warming isn't real.
Look, snow. When on record, it was so rare that there was that much snow happening.
Right.
It has nothing to do with one area. It's about people who don't realize the facts. And if we're going to jump on to, again, it's the train of politics, is we go round and around the lobbying of telling a narrative.
Yeah.
When it makes money. Fossil fuels make money. If we're going to talk about the Ukraine war, we're talking about money.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking about power. We're talking about perception of, and I'm sorry to say, there's some people who just will believe anything. But there's also some people who are uberly extremists of climate change, and they'll do violent things to make their point across.
Or they'll ruin paintings, right?
Know,
That's been a big thing lately. In the name of climate change, I'm gonna tape my dick to this painting.
Is that art? Is that art?
Is that art?
And they didn't use AIs.
I think it would depend on how the dick looked.
Exactly.
I think it depends on the shape and size, the girth.
If it was cut or not.
Snip.
Snip.
Circumcised, the veins.
That changed everything.
Hair. All of it.
So,
really, the whole package.
I know. See, that's what happens with politics. You end up talking about dicks.
But what if it's an AI? What if it's an AI dick that they put on there? Yeah.
Well, what
if it's even not even real?
See, there's those people, and yeah.
I don't know, man. I agree that climate change is real, obviously global warming, but it's even in my astronomy class recently, I was told that it's still speculated how much man really has done for climate change. My fucking astronomy teacher was telling me that. I was like, that is a pretty bold thing for this man to say, because I feel like normally, especially in academia, you'd imagine that they would kind of be demonizing man and being like, hey, we're fucking up out here. But he showed us this graph. And this kind of goes along with humans also fucking up the climate, but we were so much hotter because scientists study how hot the Earth was during the Egyptian era. Because think about the pyramids and obviously that's all man-made power and shit. So it's they're obviously fucking up the Earth, but we were way hotter around there than we are now, dude. But it's what if the time of the Earth So I think it's all still pretty speculative, personally. It seems like it. But I think you should try to do things to like help the planet regardless. Like if you live, it's like clean up your house. It's like, clean up my house today. I don't want to live in a dirty house.
Right.
Well,
if I have to be the devil's advocate. And I have to argue back.
Absolutely. That's why I have you here.
Well, did he talk about the activity of volcanoes? Did he talk about the intensity of certain radiation where we are realizing that our magnetic poles are moving? They moved a couple years ago and we didn't even notice.
Oh, wow. I don't remember that. He did talk about volcanoes because volcanoes are more active.
We're
right?
We're talking about.
Sorry. Go ahead.
His argument is not invalid, but there is definite evidence when we have we see from the Industrial Revolution on, there is something tremendous happening that is beyond Earth and the concept when we always argue about natural Earth, like Mother Earth, of how it's
How do we know?
By recording of evidence of fossil fuels and CO2 emissions, and just the basic concept of we have a history timeline, and even in Antarctica where they have history and records of certain compounds and certain chemicals, which also tell
like how far back.
Oh, freaking since you can't quote me on that, but
right.
But it's not a immeasurable small gap. It is beyond. I mean, Antarctica has been around for a long time, and it has a certain record.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, I thought it was pretty recently that we like actually made it to Antarctica and we're like able to like set camp up there.
Yeah,
so how much?
But actually drilling through, and that's a basic. We could see it through the geology of canyons. We could see the periods of time and the sediment. That's history. So we can tell just by that the environment of how certain creatures lived, survived, and died. There is a problem with when we don't know about the kind of the extinction of certain species like the dinosaurs, right? There's many big theories, but a lot of them, when we talk about a theory, the difference between a theory and an educated guess, right? Mm-hmm. When I'm making a guess that if I throw something up, it's going to come down. Gravity is a theory, but it is a proven theory that these things never change. About gravity. These things we know to a fact because we have all this history, we have all this documentation, we have people. This is what they do every day. We're not talking about people who just like, oh, I know this because
they spend their lives on that shit.
So
for sure.
So when we have beyond evidence since the 60s, that's the problem.
Yeah, I can see that, and I'm not saying that it's not real. I'm just saying that I think a lot of even history, like people are, I don't know if you know about like Graham Hancock coming out with like him really kind of rediscovering history and saying that humans are a species with amnesia, like that we don't actually know where we come from, and like we still don't understand the pyramids. So it's like a lot of things that we make are still, I think, speculations. Now, again, I agree with you. People spend their lives on that shit. So it's like, but I don't think you can necessarily take everything that all those people say all the way to the bank. That's just my thing. It's like, I can take you mostly to the bank and I can maybe drop you off, but I don't think I can go into the bank with you. You know what I mean? Well, I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to learn where the bank is. I'm willing to learn your bank account number, but I don't think I can really put all of my cards into being like, this is definitively how these things happened. Like, this is what the fossil record means. This is what the rocks mean. Like, and these people figured out through, like, these mean these years. I just don't think, like, there's any way to actually definitively know that stuff.
But we could say the same thing about religion.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, for sure. And I'm speculative on religion too. I'm not even saying that like religion has it all the way figured out.
Is that the difference between facts and truths that we believe in? There's facts of this world,
for sure,
but then there's ending up people who believe in truths of other people. For example, right now there's people who still believe that the world is flat.
For sure, I talk to people like that on a daily basis.
Right. So, and it's a fact.
Right.
Sorry, people who believe
Tanner,
the
if
world-
I got a person who believed in flat Earth on this podcast, would you come debate them?
No.
Damn it.
Because, do you want to know why?
Why? If I got you and David. What
Because-
if I got you and David versus one flat earther?
See, no.
Damn it.
Well, it's the same thing as like, it's a fun, what we're talking about, David. There was a really cool conversation that David did one day in class to me. And it was really amazing. Not to change subjects.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. You're good.
But he's talking about, he's like, have you ever thought about being with a man? And I'm like, no. I'm straight as an arrow. That, that stereotype phrase. And he's like, are you sure? You're like, you've never
Thought about it.
cared about it. And then he's going on the tangent of making me embarrassed, right? And then he's like, have you ever like shoved your thumb up your asshole? And he's like, you never tried it. You don't think it would be good? Have you ever tried it in the shower? Like, and you keep going. And I'm just like, no. And then it keeps going, no. Why
is this conversation cool, Tanner? It sounds like you're incredibly
It's true,
uncomfortable.
though.
Yeah.
Do you ever get to that point
Of truly knowing.
of asking yourself, and then at that certain point of time, right? Does that change in 5 years?
Right.
And that's the scary thing about like when people have gender
Gender identification.
Yeah, I'm terrible with the terms, ladies.
Like
and gentlemen.
transgender.
That's something I can be totally honest about. It has nothing to do with, and that is my own fault. It has nothing to do with I am anti. It is I am naive, and that is, yes, that is my fault. But my point is I shouldn't be shamed for it. It's just that I'm more open to, hey, just tell me what you want, and I can follow that.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what I want, if that's okay. And that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's okay. But if you're going to shove it down my throat, then we're going to have a different conversation. So my point is when David does that, he's asking those bigger questions, and that does help you grow as a human being.
Instead of like saying, no, Tanner, I think you do.
Yeah.
I think you do want to be with a man. I
Yeah.
think you want to fuck a guy, Tanner.
I think you want to be with me.
I think you want me in you right now.
Right now.
Yeah.
And feel it all. So
instead
it's
of
like,
saying how. Yeah, that's interesting.
And that's why I always love David. I always love you, Chandler, because it has nothing to do with, we can have these serious conversations and then turn off this podcast and still go get some food.
Yeah,
and just
absolutely, man.
Have a great day.
Yeah, because your views are not dependent on my love or relationship
Neither.
with you.
It doesn't
I don't
change.
care.
What changes is the moral lines, right? When you cross something that offends me and hurts me as a person, but then it leads to, hey, Chan, and this is, ladies and gentlemen, if you ever want to know about how to solve things with life, it's encoding and decoding communication. The first thing you need to do, if something happens, something wrong happens, you go with, like this scenario. Hey, Chandler, how are you?
Good, Tanner. How are you?
Good. You know what, Chandler? Last night, you said a couple things that just, it just bugged me the wrong way, and I'm a little confused and a little hurt, and I would like to know where you were coming from and why you felt like you needed to say those things, because I wasn't okay with those things. And can we talk about it?
Sure. Can you tell me specifically what I said?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And boom.
Yeah.
But there's people who are going to be like, well, I don't want to talk about it. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Which is your choice. But if someone is laying their heart out to you, that's a big deal.
Yeah. Totally.
And that's the difference, right? And then that also, ladies and gentlemen, that gives you a cue if that person matters in your life.
If they're willing to hear you out.
Yeah. Regardless of what it is.
Yeah, man. And I also think it's not American to not hear somebody out in a certain level, too.
Oh, God. No, shove it down where the sun don't shine.
Cool, man. Tanner, I think we talked enough about like all the world and all the bullshit out there.
Oh, yeah.
thank you for being here, man. I mean,
Thank
before
you.
before we kind of end this and talk about your spirituality, I just want to say I love you.
Love you too.
And man, I'm so glad to see you. It's
Good
been
to see you.
so
It's been
long
way
since
too
we've
long.
yeah, stupid long. I want to talk to you about the play reading that I had, and possibly us shooting it for the podcast, which would be cool.
Yes, yes.
Tanner, you grew up in a Christian house,
I did, non-denominational.
and when did you start going to church?
Oh, probably as early as I was able to walk. I mean,
Okay.
so it's not like something new.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Of like, there's different people who, adults who find Jesus later on in their life, and then they bring their children on it.
Or like me, like I really remember starting to go to church at a young age, but then we left, and then I started coming back like in fifth grade.
Right.
So I distinctly remember like a time of not going to church, but I also went to a non-denominational church, so that's very cool.
Right.
What was your life kind of growing like? What was your life like growing up in the church? Did you have a lot of friends? Did you really believe? Like, were you super bought in? Were you not bought in at all? Was it not about Jesus and more about hanging out?
Well, Chandler, to be selfish, and that's the problem with my reality of religion, is that talking about me, the way I perceive the world is just a tinge different than other people because of just how my brain ticks, how I tick, and how I interacted with people at a young age who treated me different because I did things differently or was dramatic. I mean, if there's one word that everyone just freaking uses for Tanner Ketterman is
Dramatic.
Is dramatic. And that actually hurts. I hated it when I won. I won in high school, ladies and gentlemen. I won the Drama Queen Award. Which has never, let me state this, has never been offered to a man.
Yeah.
Which is, by the way, sexist. I don't give a shit.
There's definitely gay dudes who went to your school who deserve that fucking drama queen award, dude.
But I won it.
But that is embarrassing. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it is, and it hurts.
Yeah.
And so when I asked questions to the pastor when he's telling me to memorize lines in the Old Testament and the New Testament so I can get a Laffy Taffy at the end of the day, and then I ask, why am I saying that? Why am I saying that? Who am I saying it to?
Mm-hmm.
Why does it matter? And being turned down. And being like, yeah, just sit down and be quiet. You're a little dramatic, and you crying randomly over things or feeling emotional over things that people aren't being open with their emotions, which that is what I've always believed with religion. It is for everyone. That is the purpose of a church, is sanctuary.
Mm-hmm.
That is what Jesus taught.
Jesus said he didn't come for the good people. He came to be a healer for the sick.
He was horrified when he saw the synagogues.
Mm-hmm.
Horrified.
Flipped over tables, man.
He lost his mind.
Lost his shit.
An aggressive Jesus that we don't talk about. I love those ones. I love the stories when Jesus is a man. That's what people don't always are forgetting. Yes, we know the end. I love, and I'm quoting fantasy, Brandon Sanderson, journey before destination. Jesus' journey is amazing. It is a credible story.
Yeah.
How incredible is this? Imagine this kid, young kid, doing all these crazy things, and their parents are like, oh my God. And the guy's like, yeah, I know, this is great. Yeah. It's true. Like, think about how incredible the things he's gone through and the struggles he's gone through. We don't talk about that. I'm sorry, but we don't. We talk about how he's going to change our lives rather than learning from a man who's made mistakes. But then at the end, he's like, it's okay. He tells us it's okay because I made them too. But I'm choosing I made my final choice.
You think those are mistakes? That's interesting.
Well, like not when we're talking, there's a difference between when we're making, well, think about it. Do you think Jesus, that was a good choice to get mad and rage and stuff? Do you think when you view Jesus, have you ever thought of that?
I mean, that is a very interesting thing that I've never thought about, right? I mean, the basic Christian answer, right? And I'm not a Christian, so I'm just repeating stuff that we heard in church,
right?
Is that's God's wrath in that moment, right? And if a place is holy and sanctioned to be holy, it shouldn't be treated like business, and it shouldn't be treated like the world. So God's wrath will come down upon that place. But that is very interesting to say, like, Jesus definitely lost his cool. Like, it's definitely, like, it's not, you can't say that dude didn't go crazy. Like, that dude went ham.
In any translation of the Bible, and I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You cannot change those stories unless you redact, you take out, and if we're going to go back on religion, that is why it's so hard when I survived, and I have to say that, I survived religion and people because it was non-denominational. If I was raised Catholic, if I was raised
LDS,
well, yeah, or I don't. And again,
Protestant, Lutheran.
I want to go like on a little tangent of LDS. Like, I got in trouble. I got yelled at for saying LDS because of different people. They're saying, "Well, we want to be known as the Church of Jesus Christ." Like, this literally person just told me, and he just lost his mind over me saying LDS. On the side note, you know, and that's what I'm like. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying is like, when you're on that level of you can't even, it's so hard to, and that's for everything.
Mm-hmm.
When you can't even, you're gonna lose your mind over a name
as a joke, probably too, right? Like, you weren't even being serious.
Well, I wasn't even. Yes, I will admit I have problems with the Church of Jesus Christ or LDS. I have problems with them, but I'm not going out shaming them.
Oh, absolutely not.
I'm not going out treating them differently.
But many Christians do.
Oh, absolutely.
It's sad, man. And the thing
Everyone
is, Tanner,
treats each other bad.
I'll tell you what.
Freaking, there was wars over it.
I've actually learned some things that Mormons believe, and if you really understand it and you consider yourself a Christian or a follower of Christ, you should not be ridiculing and mocking these people. You should be loving these people, and quite frankly, you should be feeling great empathy for these people. On the LDS website, it says that they believe that the Father and Jesus both have physical bodies made of flesh and bone to this day. So what lives inside of you is only the Spirit of God. Mm-hmm. I believe that Jesus resides inside of me. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, and so to me, like, and Jesus is what brings salvation. And that's what I believe. So to me, to believe that you have a Savior that doesn't even live inside of you is like, I need to reach you, man. I don't need to be going to you and telling you that you're going to hell. Like, because first of all, I don't even know that. And secondarily,
how would you?
And secondarily, that's just sad to me. Like, it's just heartbreaking.
Absolutely.
And yeah, man,
absolutely.
The amount of Christians that I've heard being like, I just want to go up to every Mormon that I know and just tell them that they're going to hell. I'm like, you don't have love, man.
I'm sorry you failed that class, that lesson.
So what do you believe now, Tanner? Where do you stand with all of that? Did you have a moment where, like, you left the church at all?
I mean, I can be honest. I don't believe churches as they are anymore. I think they're institutions, regardless of even the ones I've sadly been to. I think there's a difference between a terrible church but a great pastor.
Yeah, totally.
And there could be a terrible pastor but a great community, a great church. And that's the problem. I had many mentors. I don't know if they changed their names, but the Rock It was a non-denominational. It was more like a Christian rock.
Rocky Mountain Ministries.
Thank you.
Yeah, I used to go to Rocky Mountain Ministries.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
I thought it was
a
cool.
great church. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was great. One of my amazing mentors and peers was Jason, and he taught me the way of God, which is cool. But when you're doing it as Who Wants to Be a Millionaire and learning trivia on memorizing the Bible, when I've read the Bible back and forward and backwards, and it's a lot to take in.
It's a lot, yeah.
Right? So me saying I understand and I know everything is the hypocrisy of the Bible.
Boom! Tanner Ketterman, baby.
Right. So
yeah.
Right? If we're going to follow Jesus, sorry to say, people, there's certain people who say they love Jesus and they follow Jesus. They don't. If you have to put it on posters, if you have to promote it, if you have to make someone's life miserable and harder, there was a really cool, another Reddit thing of a pastor who pretended to be homeless, and he was sitting out in the church and seeing how people react. There's all these people who were just saying, hey, you can come in if you want and just chill with us, but we bought you food anyways. And there's people who kept doing that. And then the last guy was like, hey, I got you some water, but I got you something worth more, the Word of God. And he handed him a Bible. And I'm like, cool.
And the pastor was definitely like, that guy at the end, he definitely was trying to save my soul.
He won.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, well, that doesn't feed me.
Yeah. Because, I mean, that's literally contradictory to, I cannot remember the chapter. It's like Matthew 25, or maybe 10, I can't remember. But it's where God comes back and raises everyone from the dead and lines them up. And on the right, he puts his sheep, and on the left, he puts his the goats.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not the greatest of all time. These people are actually going to hell. And on the right, he says, because you clothed me and you fed me when I was hungry and you gave me something to drink when I was thirsty. And they say, but God, we never saw you. And he says, what you do to the least of these, you also do to me. So it's like, that's not talking at all about bringing the word of God to people. That's literally talking about physically, helping people who are in need.
Right. And that's my problem. My love and my hate of religion is right there. And I am fine saying I don't know. And that's what I'll tell you to this day. I don't know.
But this is my question for you, Tanner. What do you think about Jesus?
Cool.
So
Great guy.
religion, yeah. Do you think that...
Great guy.
Do you follow Jesus, do you think?
I think anyone should follow, because even Muhammad Ali said, hey, yeah, Jesus' teachings was cool. They viewed him as a prophet.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah. The difference is what are you doing from then on? And growing from then on. Mm-hmm. Because I am learning and following Jesus' teachings, I can make certain rules, make certain exceptions. Because I am in this rank and in this position, and because I follow the Word of God, I can make these exceptions, I can make these choices. Since I am above people because I follow Jesus, I can do whatever the hell I want.
So your argument is more that it's more just about actions than it is about faith?
Well, it's life.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It's all
I think
done.
think you are your actions to a certain sense, so that's really what matters at the end of the day.
I would say it's what you do afterwards. It's the next step, regardless of what action. You can make whatever action for good or ill. What's the next step after that?
Right, after you accept, or whatever you accept, what do you do after that? And is it helping or is it hurting?
The next step forward.
All right, Tanner.
All right, Chandler.
I have these lyrics to send you off with.
Cool.
I would like you to read them.
On my muted phone.
Go ahead and just read what I have highlighted, Tanner, and this will send us out on this podcast. This is a poem, a reading of Doja by Central C, performed by Tanner Ketterman.
How can I be homophobic? My bitch is gay. Hit man in the top. Try see a man topless, even the stick is gay. Hugging my brothers and say I love them, but I don't swing that way. The mandem celebrate Eid, the trap still running on Christmas Day.
Thank you, Tanner. To everybody out there, have a good day. Hug your loved ones. Tell them that you love them. And if you ain't drank water today, if you're out there feeling afraid, I encourage to build up the courage to tell the people you love them before they pass away. Peace.
Peace.
I'm feeling separated from all this generation. Follow the leader of the nation without hesitation. They all want meditations, using drugs for medication. My mind is always racing. What the hell are you saying? Useless, I knows it. You know, giving grants out like Ulysses. You gonna miss this if you ain't clean. Cleaner than Mr. Clean. I'ma wash you like some dishes. My pet is delicious. You is suspicious. Your girls are my bitches, but they are my misses. And they used to be yours, but you brought that girl in and your letters were bored. And Eliza didn't like it as much as Hamilton. And you wanted to pour, but she cut you from the hand, my man. My sound always gets around so much. Chris Brown can't look at me now. Bow wow should bow down, except not. Why is that? 'Cause by then you know I'm out of town, and I don't know if my mind can handle the way it sounds coming out of the mouths of these youth-filled crowds.